Hello guys, Nigel here with you again, Nigel's Modelling Bench. Welcome back to part 12. Is this 12 or 13? This is 13, isn't it? Part 13 of this Stuka build. Wow. So as you can see here, we've got our all deckled up. There is nothing more to do other than to give it a bit of a wash down. You can see, if I hold it in the light and move it around, you can see there's staining there where the solvents have been, the solutions for getting the decals to go down. You can see the staining on the surface. So we just go over there with a wet cloth. We just get a cloth, piece of paper towel, probably, to be honest, a piece of old t-shirt material is better for this because it has no lint in it. But just grab some water. Make sure you're not using anything but water. Don't be using thinners or anything. Just get a cloth, just a bit of moisture on the cloth. And then we should be able to just go over that and just wipe it down and remove any staining. If you don't get it all off, it's not a big issue because it's it'll get hidden by the clear coats. But it is a good idea to get it off if you can. Better off than on. A bit like yeah. So there we go. So you can see that there, basically get rid of that staining. And you can see, as I said before when I was doing it, the actual decal setting solutions can leave little watermarks. You can see there's one here on this corner, a watermark there. Nothing to worry about, it just happens. As I say, the clear coats will cover it up, and we're going to weather it anyway. So I've broken that flap now. Oh, for God's sake, it seems I break a flap each day. So what I've got to do now is probably the most dangerous job of this whole build, and this could be where I really wreck it. But hopefully it's going to go all right. Now what I've got to do is take this piece of armoured glass, which as you can see is masked up and painted. I've got to take that and glue it onto the front of here. Okay, now I did it before, if you remember. I think it was in part 9, was it? I glued it on, or part 8. I glued it on and I tried to use Tamiya Extra Thin. It wicked underneath and it nearly destroyed the model, or destroyed the canopy, or the glazing. So I cut it off, cleaned it all up, sanded it all down, and hopefully everything is now good. Now on the front of here there was some rivet detail. Now I think I've sanded it off, and the trouble is the rivet detail will hold the armoured plating away. Now I did sand it off, it's all smooth. So I want a nice flat surface for the armoured plating to go onto. I can still see, I think there's some rivet detail on the top there. I don't want to sand through this paint. You can see now how hard wearing Mr. Colour paints are. Really good. So we've got the grey under there. So obviously now I need to take this masking away from here. So just pick out the corner with a blade, make sure you don't scratch the glazing, and then pull away the masking tape with these tweezers. There we go. And we can see on there that we've got all good. We've got a little bit, tiny little bit of, I got a brand new cocktail stick, so I don't use one that's contaminated with anything. If you use a cocktail stick that might have a bit of super glue on the end, you're going to scratch your canopy big time. I'm just going to come in here now, got to stay away from that bloody elevator, flap should I say, and just scratch away that little bit of overspray in there. Now because it's Mr. Colour, or it might be Tamiya lacquer paint, it doesn't want to scratch off as easily as like Viejo or Tamiya with Tamiya thinners, ordinary Tamiya, not Tamiya lacquer paint. So what I'm going to do is I've got a bottle of IPA here. I'm just wetting the end of the cocktail stick, and then I can rub away and take away that paint that's there. There we go, that's gone. There was hardly anything there. There's a tiny little bit there. It's just where the paint has got underneath the masking tape. You can do this on all your models. Go around with a cocktail stick afterwards. Particularly if you've used like Viejo or Tamiya acrylic paint with Tamiya thinners, you know, the X20A, then you're laughing. Then we'll come along with a brand new cotton bud, one of my special Simon cotton buds, which is, they're a nightmare to get out of the pot when you've got a full pot. There we go. So that's that all done. Okay, so it's not perfectly clear, it's not perfect, there is a bit of tarnishing around it, but for what could have happened, it's absolutely amazing that it's as nice as it is. So what we're going to do now is get this glazing and take the masking off of the back, which in itself is going to be dodgy, because if I scratch it I should be gutted. There we go, just peel the corner up, grab it with the tweezers. Jess. So Jess, shut up. So again, filming this is a premiere, so don't forget to hit that like button. Have a little chat with people over on the right hand side of the screen. So that armour plate is going to go on there. So what I've got to do is attach it with a piece of masking tape. So I'm going to attach this off camera because I need to do it under my magnifier. I've got one of these head-worn magnifiers and I cannot get on with it, but I need to keep practicing because it's getting to the point where I'm going to have to use it. So I'm going to go off camera, go underneath my magnifier and get this positioned, and then I'll come back and talk about how I'm going to glue it on. Okay, so we have the armour plate and I think it's in the centre. So what I'm going to do now is, somebody did suggest a very good idea. They suggested using Future, and I thought that was a very, very good idea. Thank you very much. I'm not going to use Future, basically because I worry that it may wick in partially around the sides because it is so thin, and then it would sort of like tide marks around the side, if you know what I mean, because there is a gap in there. I'd say the gap is probably something like 0.2 millimeters, and I think because it's that thin, I think it might wick in. If it wicked in all the way across, I think it would be fine. If it was flat, I would put Future on there and just push it on and let it squeeze out, because it would dry absolutely clear. But the trouble is there is a gap, and if I sand away all the framing, I lose all the details. So what I'm going to try, this stuff here, this GS Hypo Cement. It's American stuff. It's really, really good. It's dead clear and it dries crystal clear. It's also very strong. Jewelers use it for fitting stones and stuff. But what I've done, an experiment, I did it on this lid, and you can see here there's a shiny area there, and I thinned it right down with Mr. Colour leveling thinners, and it seemed to work really, really well. So what I'm going to do is make up. Let's grab over here I have my super glue applicator. I'm going to use this to apply it because I can basically wick it into the edge. Again, I'm going to have to do that off camera, guys, because I cannot see what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do is put some of this onto this upturned Tamiya pot. Put plenty there because it's very difficult to get a tiny drop out of the leveling thinners. So I'm going to put that needle back in there. So give that a go. So I get some Mr. Colour leveling thinners, and I'm just going to try and put a drop down. Just going to try and put one drop like that, so it's sort of 50-50. And then I grab a cocktail stick. In fact, I'll grab that new cocktail stick wherever that one's gone. Okay, I'll get another one out then. Oh, there it is. And then we can just mix this together. And bake up a nice thin. Is Jess going to start barking again? It's about the consistency of thin, of medium super glue. And that's what I want. I want it thin enough to get in there and actually wick in, but I don't want it to go crazy and wick all the way in. And even if it does, we may be alright, because as I say, it does dry crystal clear. Now, as I say, I'm going to do this off camera, but what I'm going to do is just basically dip this glue applicator in, and then I'm just going to put it down in that gap, but I don't want it to go over onto the masking tape of the next piece, so it'll glue the masking tape in, and then I'll be cutting away and trying to get masking tape out and everything. And then hopefully when it's sort of tacked off, I should be able to go around with a bit of this kind of leavening thinners on a stick, and just on a cocktail stick, and just take any excess away. So wish me luck, and I'll see you in a minute. And that went really, really well. Let's get this light up higher for you. Yeah, that went really, really well. So I don't want to touch the model. Well, I will with my hands because I've got glue on my fingers. But basically, I don't know if you can see, but along the top edge and along the bottom edge, I've put some of that glue. I did add a drop more thinners just to thin it down a little bit more, so it was like the consistency of a, you know, of a thick paint. You know, paint that's too thick to brush really. And yeah, it seems to have gone down really well. So I've got to leave that now for a few hours, and then carefully take the tape off and do the same down the sides. And once I've done that, I'll come back and we'll start looking at getting flat coats on and stuff like that. And then we're going to have to start looking at getting it all together with the little greeblies and the antenna and the aerial and the wire, get all the masking off, and go from there. So it's all getting really exciting. I think this may be the last part, or in fact this may be the last part of the build, and then we can decide whether we're going to go for weathering or not. We're going to leave it looking all fresh and new, or just give it a little bit of a weather, just a little bit of a knockback, or really go to town on it. I think I'm tempted to just give it a little bit of a weathering, just to, you know, make it look a bit used and have the guns looking pretty new, because obviously these were fitted later. So we'll just put some washes on here and dirty them up a bit, perhaps some soot around here where the shells are ejected. We definitely need some matte black paint in there. But I was looking at the trumpeter kit actually somebody had built, and compared to the trumpeter, this is gorgeous. This is the detail on here is absolutely lovely. Right, so there we go. That dried for 8 or 10 hours. I very carefully took the tape off, and then I've put more of that glue down the sides. And if I can show you close up how it looks, you can probably see, just if I get the reflection, you can just see where the glue is. And it basically, as I said, I thinned it to the consistency of, like, first of all I did like medium super glue, and then I sort of thinned it to, I don't know, thicker than that. It was like a gloss paint, like a Tamiya gloss paint straight out of the jar, that sort of consistency. And then I was able to apply it, and it would just wick in. I could apply tiny little amounts using my little glue looper here, which is an RB Productions one. These things are amazing. If you don't have any, I should get them. The end is like, I don't know if you can see it there, the end is like a horseshoe, and it's all black because basically when it gets blocked up with super glue, you just get a lighter and clean it off with a cigarette lighter. But yeah, applied that round there, and that is on there now nice and solid. So remember to take the mask off behind. We remember to take the mask off on the actual back of the armour plate, so we won't know how it looks until it's all painted, because obviously I don't want to unmask and then remask that armour plating. So the next thing now is a flat coat. Now we've got here, we have as you know, my new favourite paints are Tamiya LP. So we've got LP9, which is a clear gloss, which is very nice indeed. I don't need to use that, I don't need a gloss. We've got semi-gloss, which is LP24, and flat, which is LP23. Now I don't want to use flat, okay? Reason being, when we do our weathering and stuff, if you put washes on, they tend, I'm not sure if how this would react, maybe I should try a little sample, but basically with flats, when you put washes down, pigments, oils, whatever, they tend to sort of soak into the surface and change the colour. If you remember, I showed you on the interior when we did the gloss work, I put the gloss down, then when I put the black wash on, the grey didn't change colour. If you use a matte, the matte paint is kind of porous, it soaks up the oils or whatever you're using and changes its colour. So I'm going to use a semi-gloss. If I use a gloss, whatever I put on there, when I go to wipe it away, it will just wipe it all off because it's got nothing to bind to the surface. If I use a flat, it sticks to the surface too much. So we need something in the middle. So I'm going to try this. Pretty crazy, I know. I've got a model that's come out lovely like this, and I'm going to experiment, but I know it's going to be great. I know it's okay on the decals because I used it on the spinner. I I'm not going to spray this stuff on camera because it stinks and I need to use the booth. But basically, you need to, over where any decals are, or pretty much anywhere really, start off very light and kind of mist a coat on. I'm going to thin it quite heavily, probably 60% thinners, even though as you can see it's quite thin already. You can see in there it's quite thin already. It's quite watery. But I'm probably going to thin it 50-60%, and that will get it really thin, and then lay it down very, very carefully, especially over any decals, because what it will do, it will sort of bite into the surface, and on your decals it will bite into the surface and melt them. And it's not such a massive issue with stuff like this, but when you've got stuff like this, what you might do is have the black and the yellow all just bleed together, and you really don't want to see that. You want it to be, and also you want it to be nice and thin. You don't want to build up. And the other thing you're trying to do is seal in the decals and also get rid of that edge. If I put a wash on there now, the wash would pick up on the edge of the decal, and you would see all around the side of the decal, you would see an edge. The other thing is it'll show up any silvering. So if we've got any silvering, we can come along, prick it with a pin, put some Tamiya extra thin, Mr. Colour leveling thinners, Mark Fit, you know, something strong that's going to get in there and make it go back down. I don't think we're going to have any problem, because we, as I said, I mean, if I'd have put a gloss coat down, I think it would have been even better, but I didn't want to put a gloss coat down because I didn't think the decals needed it, because they're that good, and I've been proved, I think, right. When you look at how they've gone down, they are absolutely lovely. Okay, and there we go, all done, all sprayed up. That's with the Tamiya Lacquer Paint LP24, and boy oh boy is this stuff amazing. It is, I thinned it roughly 50-50 with Mr. Colour leveling thinners. Now, something I want to say now, I have been promoting this stuff, Mr. Rapid thinners, because everybody says how amazing it is. I'm learning the hard way, if you like. Mr. Colour leveling thinners, self-leveling thinners, whatever you want to call it, is better, because the whole idea of leveling thinners is it has like a retarder in it. So when you spray, it allows the paint to level out. The rapid thinners, it goes down and that's it, it dries. So if you've got a bit of orange peel, or you've got a bit of a grainy finish, what's happening is it's giving you that grainy finish because it just dries. Whereas the leveling thinner, as you, well, you may not know, if you've sprayed your model with Tamiya or Mr. Colour or AK or whatever, LP paints, and you've got a grainy dry finish, like sometimes you'll get it when you spray into here, into the corner, the paint gets recirculated and blows back on with the airbrush and it goes on dry and you end up with this dry finish. One of the favourite places for it is around where you've got on a Phantom, on an F4 Phantom, where you've got the intake plates down the side of the cockpit. That area in there often gets this dry spray in there. You can just spray neat Mr. Colour leveling thinners, just get some of this in your airbrush, spray it over neat and just put it on. Don't flood it because it will take the paint and run, but just spray it over neat and it will actually level that paint out for you, and it's wonderful stuff. And I'm beginning to think that the rapid thinner is great for it. I mean, rapid thinner is amazing for cleaning your airbrush. It's, you know, the sort of, you've got it all cleaned out with the dirty thinners, and then you've gone in with a rag or a cotton bud or whatever, and you've given it a good clean out. The last little bit, you know, just put a drop of rapid thinners in there, spray it through, and it just seems to take everything out. So it's obviously very, very hot stuff. But yeah, this is done with Mr. Colour leveling thinners, and it's allowed it to level out. And as you can see, we've got this gorgeous sheen on here now, and I'm kind of wishing I'd done this before I'd laid the decals down. I think they would have gone down a lot nicer on this sheen, but they've gone down anyway. We can see, if I hold it up in the light, you can just see in there, you can see the edge there, the carrier film, but it's sealed in now, so it's not going to pick up on a wash. This is always a problem with these crosses because you have to have the carrier film in there. I did do a trial with the enamel thinners, and unfortunately it didn't work. It just took the whole decal off. So maybe I'll do a more extensive trial again, but these decals, I mean, you can see in that one there all the detail. There's no silvering. All the rivet detail is in there. You can't see it because it's so fine, but you can see it now. The rivet detail's in there. Same on this one. Really, really nice. Really pleased with how they've gone down. Same underneath. Bloody canopy keeps falling off. Same underneath. You can see all the detail is in there. all the rivet detail, all the screw detail, everything. And then we've got the same here on the sides. You can see in the side of the aircraft there, and then on the tail. You know, really, really nice. They've gone down beautifully. Very impressed with the decals. So if you're watching this border, your manufacturer of decals is the people to stay with, because they're amazing. I sprayed the nose section as well. While I was spraying, I had a hair in it. I think it was a Jess hair, so I've got a little bit of a mark in there. So what I can do is come along with a drop of water and a 5000 stick. I'm not using a sponge, I'm using a hard stick. If I use a sponge, it'll pick up on edges and stuff. And where that, you can see where that rough area is there. You can just see here between this oval panel and the back of the exhaust aperture, you can see there's some marking, and that's where I picked out the hair. So I could just come along with this 5000 grit stick and just take those marks away, just like so. The reason I'm using a 5000 is because it just means I have to work at it a bit more. If I use anything coarser, I might put marks in it. There we go. So almost gone, just a little bit more, a bit more water. And these are the Infini Matador sticks, so they're absolutely amazing. And as I always say, you can get them from Premium Hobbies. And don't forget, use my code NMB10 and you'll get 10% off everything you buy. There we go, that's those marks gone. So that's that done. The other thing I noticed is where I had this, you can see on the wing here, again in the light, you can see the line in the paint where the old yellow line was. So what I'm tempted to do is come along again with this 5000 stick and just gently, there's nobody's riveting, just gently sand over that area, and it may help to take some of that spot away. If we see any green colour start to come onto the stick, that means we've gone through the lacquer. But we can certainly, if we can't get rid of it, we can certainly improve it. If you keep it wet, it will cut much better. I've got a bit of an undercut there where it peeled the paint. But, I think we'll be fine with that. There we go, that's most of that gone. If you hear a loud noise, I may drop the model and run, because I believe there's a couple of B1s here again, B1 bombers, and I'm keen to see them. I didn't get to see them last time. I saw like a vapor trail, but I didn't see anything much last time. Again, we got that line there, so just going to gently sand. Remember, what I'm doing is actually sanding the lacquer. I'm not sanding the decal or the paint or anything. I'm just sanding the lacquer. And that's why I'm looking at the stick, because as soon as I see anything any colour on that stick at all, that means I've gone through. And like I say, we're not going through the clear coat. We're only sanding the clear coat. And all I'm doing is just sanding the edges, just to take off the carrier film. I'm not sanding the carrier film. I'm sanding the lacquer down to the carrier film, just to level it out. There we go. So obviously that needs to be washed off now. And that's that. I've also sprayed these. They're on wooden sticks. I'm not using the little metal sticks I normally use, because they were just the right size to just go in. So I've decided to use these wooden sticks instead. But you can see they've been clear coated as well. Lovely. And now that I've clear coated it, I notice I've got a seam. Oh, it seems to have disappeared. Yeah, there, I think. I've got a bit of a seam show in there. It's literally nothing. So I'm not going to worry about it. Yeah, they've come out lovely. So they're all ready for a wash and a bit of weathering. And as we know, the nose is all done and ready. So we're nearly there, guys. We're nearly finished on this one. So I'm going to get this washed off. and then I'll come back. I'm not going to bother putting any more clear coats on and sanding it back anymore. Once it's matte coated, I don't think you'll see that step at all, because it is literally, now it's pretty much non-existent. It's just such a shame we had the balls up in the first place. We've got that mark under there, I'm leaving that. I'm not doing anything with that. It's so the paint was quite thick in that area. I mean, I could just perhaps try and reduce it a touch. But I don't want to go through the clear coat. I certainly don't want to mess up the yellow. But so now you can see, guys, if you make mistakes, if you get balls up on your paintwork, it's not the end of the world. And at the end of the day, you know, I could just submerge this wing in some alcohol, leave it overnight, and in the morning it'll wash off, it'll just brush off. Actually, that's made that a hell of a lot. I was going to leave it, but it's made that a hell of a lot better. And I can see now I've got blue coming through, so I'm going to stop. That has really improved that a lot. That was that step where the paint all peeled away on the edge of the knife. Again, why I use Tamiya white under the yellow, I do not know. When I've got like MRP and LP, LP4, is it? Yeah, LP4, which is, I don't know why I used a bloody acrylic shitty white paint. Idiot. So, like I say, I'm going to give this a good wash down. Get in all the panel lines and everything. Get between those raised rivets on the flaps. Or the elevator, I keep calling them flaps, the elevators I mean. So yeah, that's all done. And we're ready now to start some weathering. And I need to have a good long think about what I'm going to do. Right then guys, after looking at this again, I can see that where I cut the tape on this, where the line used to be, I've actually got quite a step in there, and the wash is going to pick up in that, and it's going to really bug me. I've also got a bit of a line there, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some more clear on here. But the trouble is, if I spray this whole area in clear nice and thick, what will happen is I'll lose all that rivet detail, or it'll all become very faint. It'll look odd compared to the rest of the wing and this wing. So what I'm tempted to do is, with my LP24, I'm not going to use anything different because I don't want to have any interactions. I'm going to get a clean cocktail stick, okay, and I've done this on car bodies before to repair a stone chip. If it hasn't gone through to the metal, it's just done the clear coat. You can actually build the clear coat up and then sand it back. So what I'm going to do is, just with a cocktail stick, is just lay some in there. Now I may lose a couple of rivets, but losing one or two rivets is better than losing them all. What I'm doing is just building this up, because it's going to sink back. Okay, so that's that done there. And then, I know a lot of you guys love to see my little tips and that. And this is particularly good for the car body guys, the car modelers out there. You know, if you've got a bit of a cock up on your bodywork, get a clear coat, a bloody canopy, get a clear coat down. I can do the same under here, so this side, isn't it? I can do the same under here where we've got that step in it. It's nearly gone now. So I can put that in there, okay, and then let that dry, and then we can sand it back, and we'll never know it was there. But we can let that dry now. I'm going to leave that for a good 24 hours because I want it absolutely solid, and then we can sand that back. So it's going to delay the delivery of this video somewhat, but I think it's worth it. So there we go. Hey guys, right, here we go. So this is like 48 hours later now. So this clear coat that I laid in there is dried, but as you can see, what's happened, it has drawn the yellow paint out from underneath it. It's melted it and pulled it up. So now I've got these yellow streaks. So not only have I got a mark there, in fact I have got a mark there, I'm going to have to put more clear on there, otherwise it's going to show. Yeah, I'm going to put more clear on there. It's going to show. There was no point in doing it otherwise. And there we go guys, just put some more clear. I've used X22 this time so that it doesn't bite in so much. But you can see now that I've got more clear on there. So we'll leave that for, I don't know, 18 hours, whatever, and then I'll polish it back. but I just want to get rid of that line where it has actually sunken in. Really, really bad situation here. I did notice there were some comments. Somebody said they would have put the yellow stripes on afterwards. Yeah, if you want to do that, then that's fine, but you will find that 99% of modelers will actually do the yellow first, because you can spray the white, you can spray the yellow, and then you can mask the yellow off. You'll find that with these tail bands here, people always do them first, and that is just common. That's just what people commonly do. Someone else commented, I think it was Phil, comment I should have done more research. Well, if you watch all the videos, you'll know that I did lots and lots of research, because this V tends to vary in all the images. The bit I didn't notice was how the extent of the yellow on the wingtips. That's what I just didn't pick up on. So there we go. I've got some more sanding, some more painting to do under here as well. You can see I've got some yellow coming through there as well. So not to worry. But I'm all here. I'm all armed with the airbrush. I've got the paints. I've got the thinners. I've got the masking. I've got everything ready to go. And because I'm sorry, mate, I don't know how to pronounce your name. E-E-L-T-J-E. One of my original subscribers, and I'm sorry, I do not know how to pronounce your name. If you could let me know, I'd be grateful. But yeah, he suggested that you know, I should have shown, he'd like to have seen me doing the painting. So I thought, well, I'll do this little bit of touch up, this repair job on camera, and then you can see exactly what it is I do. But it's nothing very special. I've also got to paint some of that yellow in there as well, I've noticed. So we'll get that done as well. But there we go. So that's going to be that for now. Okay, so while we're waiting for the clear to dry on that wing, we'll drink beer. Yeah, let's just sit and drink beer. Right, no. As I mentioned before, I ordered these magnets. They arrived very, very cheap. They were like £3.50 or £4 for this little lot delivered from Amazon. Absolutely brilliant. Anything is, they come sellotaped to a card. They don't come in a bag or anything. So I'm going to have to grab a little baggie here to put them in. So they don't get lost, because if you end up with them opposed, as you know, they will fly across the bench. So I've got two lots here. I've got 2 by 0.5 and 2 by 1. So I'm going to try and do this in the bag, as I say, in case they fly off. But I want to have them in separate bags. So there's the 0.5s coming away. They're stuck to sellotape and they're magnetised to each other. So there's all the 0.5s. Okay, so they can go in that bag. We'll sew that up. I'm not going to be using those. I'm going to be using on here the 2 by 1s, and you may wish to copy me, because I think this is a pretty good way of displaying the beautiful engine on this beautiful Stuka. And I would just like to say here, I may well say this somewhere else before you get to see this video, although I doubt it. In my last, in part 12, John mentioned that he had seen a German gentleman has received his model Lancaster, and I thought I was going to be one of the first, so I can keep that for a minute. So I thought I'd contact Border Model and say, when is one going to be available for me, sort of thing. And they came back, and it's really, really good news, guys. They said, no, the company, the guy we sent it to in Germany is our biggest European distributor, and he has the kit. It's incomplete, parts missing, no instructions or whatever. As soon as we have a complete kit, you will be sent one, don't worry. So I have definitely got a Lancaster from Border Models coming to this bench soon. Okay, so I can imagine it's not going to be more than 3 or 4 weeks. It sounds like they just, I reckon personally, they haven't told me, but I reckon personally the issue they have is with the clear parts, because if you look at the model that was put up recently on Facebook, it was complete but missing the canopy. So the cockpit canopy, the windscreen. So I reckon that could be the issue they're having. I have no details. All I know, well, I'm not going into any details of what I do know, but they're having issues. So, but I think they're perfectionists. I just hope if they've got ammo, I have actually said to them if they want to send me anything for proofreading or whatever, then by all means do so. I don't know if they will or not. I think they're on holiday at the moment for the New Year, Chinese New Year. But if this has been done by ammo, we can expect the same sort of stuff from the Lancaster. And I'm obviously willing to help them with their colour call-outs and stuff like that. I don't know why these people use ammo, because generally a lot of people don't use ammo paints. I don't know. But anyway, so what we're trying to do now is, if you notice, if you don't know already, if you haven't been watching these videos, this engine is beautiful. The bulkhead is beautiful. Everything's nice about it. You could do a super detailing, but this is an out of the box build basically. But the thing is, if you glue the exhaust on, you can't then get the cowling off. So I want to make the cowling removable, the exhaust removable, so then I can slide the cowling off. And it's such a beautiful fit. You can see it. You know what I mean? It clips on. It's just wonderful. It's as good. I'm going to say it, if not better than Tamiya. If you can't get better than this. You cannot get a kit that fits better than this. It's impossible, because this is perfect. So anyway, right. So this was going to go in here. If you notice, we've got a pin on the back, and if you notice in here, we've got a hole which is below centre. So they are sort of handed. So what I think I'm going to do is put two magnets in. Put one there. On the other side, do the opposite. So put one there, so you can't put them on the wrong way around. So what I'm going to do is, I've got my magnets and I've got this stainless steel fret from an old trumpeter kit. So I'm going to cut two of these off and glue them onto the back of there. And I'm going to drill holes in here for those 2x1 magnets to sit in there, and then they will be held in. So if you look on the back of here, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. I don't think you're going to see it on the camera. But maybe if I bring the light forward, maybe you'll see it. I don't know. Come on, camera, focus, please, focus. No, you can't. But behind here, if I pull one of these off, we've got the ports in the cylinder head. So I want to try and make sure I line them up with them. It's going to be very difficult because you can't see anything. So if I grab a marker, it's always the same. When you want a fine, you can't find one. When you want a medium, you can't find one. You pick up the fine. So that's going to go in that hole there. That's going to go in that hole there. So if I put one, I don't want to mark on the outside of there, do I? If I put one there and one there, yeah, that should do us. Okay, so I'm going to drill a hole in here, 0.8, and I need to put a pinprick in it first, because I want to make sure it's on centre. So I want about centre this way, so we'll go in there. There's my clock going off. It's 11 PM, guys. It's 11 PM on Saturday, the 5th of February 2022, which means we've got 2 weeks to wait for the Swedish Rally, which isn't very long at all. So that's going to be drilled in there, and that's going to be drilled in there. Okay, so we're just going to see that they do line up. Yes, they do. That's great. So then we can drill. I was more prepared. Oh, come here. Oh, come here. I think this is a 2mm drill. Let me just check. That's 2mm. Yep, that's a 2mm drill. So we can come along here and drill a 2mm hole in there, and drill a 2mm hole in there, and then we'll just grab a knife, wherever a knife may be, and just quickly wipe off the back, and then with a number 10 blade just quickly clean off the front where the plastic is pulled, or I've drilled it too fast. This is going to have to be painted again, so not too worried about scratching the paint up. And then what I want to know now is how thick that is, and I'm thinking it looks a little bit thinner than 1mm, to be honest. Just open that out. Let's get rid of the debris in there. So I might end up using those 0.5 magnets, but we shall see. So if I grab try and grab one and you get like 97. I think these magnets will stick either way to this, yeah. So if I push this 2mm magnet into this 2mm hole, right, I can't find the bloody thing. I can't find those magnets, they're gone. So anyway, they're gone. Right, so I've got two anyway pressed into there. You can see I drilled those 2mm holes. So there's two magnets now pressed into those holes, okay? And I've also, what I did before I put the magnets in, put the heat shield up against the engine and then drilled through. And you can see that I've just opened up those ports to like 2mm. So what I can do now is grab a drop of super glue. I'm using my medium stuff here, and I'm going to basically fill those little recesses with super glue. Okay, I've done that because the magnets are slightly thicker than the plastic, and I think I'll also put a drop of super glue on there and a drop of super glue on there, and then these will be stuck to the engine then. So we can come along, stick that in there, stick that in there, and then press down. Okay, and then I'm going to use the radius end of my tweezers, and that way I'll get them just sub-flush with the surface. Those magnets, I should be able to just push them in just to get them just sub-flush. Okay, and then I can come along with a drop of super glue, but that one's got an angle. Just going to straighten that. I've been doing a little bit of filming today on a couple of projects, and I tell you what, everything I've done on camera has gone wrong. And it's a case of like, turn the camera off, wallop, go straight together, turn the camera back on, falls apart, can't get it back together again. Absolute bloody nightmare today. And I've got to be honest, this camera today, this Sony's EV1 is pissing me right off. I think I must be doing something wrong, but I like to look at on the computer screen at what I'm doing, and to do that I have to use PC remote function. If you've got PC remote function on, you can't download anything to the computer. So what I've got to do is basically, if I record an hour-long film, that's absolutely fine, because at the end of it, I just come out of PC remote function and load it onto the computer. The trouble is, you have to come out of PC remote function, then turn the camera off, and wait for it to actually start to charge again, so the green light changes to orange. Then you have to turn the camera back on so that you can actually get the stuff off the computer. You could take the camera off the stand and take the card out and put the card straight in, but the trouble is with the design of the phone, the camera, you can't take the card out without taking it off the... Yeah, I know I can buy another frame, but why should I have to buy something else to carry out such a simple task? It's quite annoying. I wish I'd never bought the bloody thing, to be honest. But and if you're doing this sort of thing and you're thinking of getting a camera, don't get a ZV-1. I don't think it's suitable. I don't think it's right for this. I'm actually going to probably sell it and then buy something else, something more suitable. Right, so now we've got that on there. We've got the magnets in there. I am going to put another drop of super glue in here. I've got some thin here as well, just to try and fill up these pockets. I want to try and make sure that these things never come out. They shouldn't do, but you know, it's glue and magnets in is always an issue, because you're you know, they're very, very shiny. So there we go. So that's that in like that, and now that'll go in there. Great. And these are very flimsy. That's why I haven't drilled and put the magnets in here, in case you're wondering. So what I am going to do now is get a couple of strips off of here. I might use some strips of the actual frame, the actual fret, rather than them, because it's the right width look and everything. So I'm going to use I've got my Zuron PE cutters here. So what I'm going to do is cut in there. There we go, cut that off there. We'll cut that radius off the end, because that looks a bit naff, doesn't it? Put that in the bin. And then what I'll do is I'll cut a piece off this long. Okay. And then I'm going to cut these frets here. Just put that down on those magnets, so remember that's pick those magnets up. Okay, and then cut that down there. And then with a sanding stick I should be able to sand off those nibs, although it is stainless, so it's going to be quite hard. Let's grab it in the tweezers. There we go, just radius the corners, just take the sharp edges off. Okay, and then I'm going to cut it in half. In fact, what I'll do is I'm going to rough up the surface so that it bonds with the super glue. There we go, cut that up. Cut that in half. Is that half? Yeah, that's roughly half, isn't it? Doesn't need to be perfect as long as it's half tidy. Then same with this one, just radius off the corners. Okay, and then I think what I'll do, where's this going to go? I need to mark it, don't I? Was it this one? It's going this side? No, it's this one going in this side. So I need to mark it where the magnets are. Grab my Sharpie. So there's one there, and there's one there on the 6. Okay, so we'll put the lid back on the Sharpie. Put some super glue on here. I'm going to use that's not the right tool, is it? Nice, you idiot. Put the super glue on here, and then put this on with the sanded side down. Have it like that. So that's gone on there. Because I've used medium super glue, it takes a little while to dry, which is good. Helps me get these positioned. So grab that one, put that one on there like that. And then what we can do is come along with the drop of super glue and just run it along the side, and hopefully it'll capillary in. There's big drops on there. It's always awkward with metal to plastic, getting it to bond and not fall off. But the thing is with this, it's going to be, you know, it's only going to be taken apart once or twice, and then it will go in a cupboard and probably never be touched again. Get that off. I notice I'm using my shitty old cotton buds instead of my lovely Simon ones. Don't want to waste the Simon ones on stuff like this. I mean, when all the shitty ones are gone, I'll probably buy some more shitty ones so I don't have to waste the Simon ones. Right. So that glue on there is dried. So now we can sand this to get it nice and flush. And then just a quick run along there, and a quick run along there, and now that should go in and like an idiot I've just sanded the pin off. So I'll have to put another pin in there now. But basically that's going to go in like that. I suppose we could just align it anyway. You don't need to have it with a pin in there. So basically now what we can do is have the engine in there like that. Okay, and then we can come along, put our exhausts in, position them however we want to. Okay, and then when we want to display the engine, they actually go in with quite a gap at the front. When we want to display the engine, take that out, and then have the engine displayed with the exhaust in place. So there we go. So I'll get the other side done now, and then I'll get the exhaust painted and everything, and then I'll be back. And there we go, that's both sides done. So we can have the exhausts on, we can take them off. I did actually put some brass pins on them, so they got a much more positive location. So they come off, take the cowling off, stand the cowling next to the aircraft, and then put your exhaust back on like so. I think that's the wrong side actually. That one's going to go in there, there we go, and that one's going to go in there like that. And there we are. So now we can display the engine like that, and then when we want to put the cowling back on, just pull them off, slide the cowling back on, it's beautiful fit, and then that one's going to go on there. That one's going to slip into there. Where's the hole? Can't find the hole. There we go. And that's all nice and solid now. So as you can see, they all line up lovely and everything. So happy with how that's come out. I'll get them painted now. Right, so here we are a few hours later now. We've got our exhaust painted. So this one's going to be the left hand side. So that one's going to pop into there. Just like so. And then this one is the right hand side obviously, and that one's going to pop into there. Just like so. So there you can see now we've got them in there. And they all look nice in their metallic grey. That is actually LP56, is it? LP54. Tamiya Lacquer Paint 54. Wonderful stuff. And now that we've got that lovely dark iron colour on there, what I'll do is I'll do some pigments and stuff on them and get them. But I need to do some research because you have to be very careful. A lot of people jump in and start adding rust and everything to their exhaust on their World War II aircraft, and you'll often find that in service they didn't rust. Some of them were made from materials that didn't rust. Some were made that, you know, as soon as they were parked overnight in a foggy night or a bit of, you know, moisture in the air, they rust to high heaven. So check your references. The other thing to check is the exhaust smoke. I've been looking for exhaust smoke on these, and it would appear that Stukas have black staining all around this area, all around here, and all the way down underneath. Whereas like with the Lancaster, you get the white. So you need to check your references and make sure you get it at least somewhere handy. And again, I think I'll probably use pigments for that. So so that's that, and I'm happy with how that's come out. So that's looking lovely. So just to give you an idea of how she's going to look all together, because we haven't seen her with the exhaust on yet, have we? And then with the spinner on as well, you can see that she's looking very, very Stuka-ish now. A bit shiny, but very Stuka-ish. So the other thing I've been doing is working on this area here, sanded it back, and it's now all pretty smooth. He says that it needs some more work, so I'm going to come in now. I'm going to put a drop of water on the bench. I'm not going to be bloody put off again with these bloody stupid marks. It's all my own daft fault for using bloody Tamiya white paint. Right, so this is an 800 grit, and I can feel a lump in it there, so I'm just going to sand out that lump, and I think it's probably just going to keep on growing. There we go, and a quick one over there as well while we're at it. Okay, so that's those areas of damage now filled. Okay, so now we can come along with our cloth, get it a little bit moist, and just clean those areas off, make sure there's no paint or anything or dust or anything there. We're also going to have to give it a good clean before we do any washes or anything, because we've got all this down in the engraved lines. So what we need to do now is basically touch all this back in and get our green back here. Sorry, it's reflective so you can't see. Get our green back here. We've got the green here, we've got the darker green down here to do as well, and then we've also got a touch in the yellow, and then underneath we've got a little bit of the blue. So what I want to do is show you how I go about that. I'm doing a repair job. You don't need masking tape and stuff. We use post-it notes. So all I'm going to do is take a post-it note and cover. We're very lucky how that is just outside that green there. So I'm going to cover that. It's very difficult for me to see what I'm doing here. I'm working in my own light, in my own shadow, should I say. So I'm going to cover that green, just like so. Okay, I'm not going to worry about covering the yellow. I'm actually going to let the green go over the yellow, and then we can have a bit of pre-shading on that corner. And then on this one over here, again, take a post-it note. Post-it notes are your friend, because they're like your masking tape and your masking paper all at the same time. So we'll mask over that German cross there, and we'll mask over that German cross there. It doesn't need to be perfect as long as it's over, not the other way. And I want to get that sanding dust out of those grooves. How am I going to do that? I wonder if a cocktail stick will get in there. I don't think it's no. So we'll have to leave that in there, I guess. And then I want to cover that yellow because I don't want let's get another post-it note. I don't want to have to redo the yellow over here, so I'm just going to roughly cover that yellow there. Alright, in fact I will do it properly because then we can just leave it on there when we come to do the green. Or the black green, should I say. Here we go, put that like that. Right, so now we can come in. The trouble is this one I've covered up my, there we go. So we can spray that in there and spray that in there. Now as I said, each, however you pronounce your name, sir, I'm sorry, has asked me to show spraying. So I've got my airbrush here, compressor's on about 18 psi, I've got my green paint here. So got this here, so we get this and we can come along with the brush and put the, no, never put the paint in the airbrush first, always put the thinners in first. Reason being, if you put the paint in first, the paint will run down alongside the needle into the nozzle and then you'll have thick paint in there, and then you put the thinners on top, and when you blow back through, or when you mix it in the cup, whatever, you'll have thick paint down there. So it's always better to put the thinners in first, and then you'll see the way I stir it. So I'm just going to put a drop of thinners, literally 1, 2, 3 drops of thinners in there. And then come along with my paint and just add 1, 2 little brushfuls, maybe a third one. Okay, just like so. And then wipe that off on a cloth. Put the lid back on your paint as always. And then to stir it, all I'm going to do is put my finger on the nozzle, pull back. You can see what that's doing. That's pushing the thinners back up that's down around the nozzle and mixing it with the thinners and the paint that's in the cup. That'll be a lot harder for it to do it the other way around. So there we go. Just test a little. We can use this bit of post-it note. Just do a little test. Yep, that's lovely. So we can come along now and just touch this in. Make sure you can see what I'm doing because of the reflection. We can literally just touch that in, and I'm going to concentrate on the area I'm trying to paint, obviously, but also let the paint feather out a little bit. And I'm also going to put some pre-shade in there. There we go, that's that bit done. And then over here, there we go, that's that done. So we can let that dry, and then we can mask that again. And you can see when I take the post-it note off, we have a nicely masked line. You don't need to, the dullness you can see on there is just rubbing sanding. But you don't need to use masking tape and stuff. This is also great when you're using metallics and you're getting the different coloured panels and everything. So so there we go. So that's that done. We'll let that dry and then we'll mask up some more. I'll put some masking across there and do that dark green. And we've got to mask this and do the yellow. So I'll let this green that's on there now dry and then I'll come back. Right, so coming onto the underside, you can see what that little yellow mark there. So what I'm going to do is just get this post-it and mask the V. Again, making sure I'm close to the edge, but not. It's better to have it a little bit onto the blue than have the blue go onto the yellow. So it's just to stop overspray. That's really not spraying up to the tape. So here we can just come along. Got a hair stuck on the post-it note there. Here we can just come along. Yes, you can see, and I can just come along and just touch that in, just like so. The minimum amount of paint, so I don't want to ruin our pre-shaded look. You can see I'm putting a tiny amount of paint on there, and there we go. That's that done. Okay, so there we are. So clean the airbrush out again, and then we get the top done. Right, so the green's been done for a while now, so what we're going to do now is, I think we'll do the yellow next. So what I'm going to do is come along and mask here. As I say, we don't need masking tape, post-it notes are plenty good enough. Mask in there, and then we can mask across the back. Like so, and then I'm just going to put a small one down here. As I said, it doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be not on the green. So that one needs to be good because we're looking for a straight line. So I'm going to get some, I'm going to use LP8 this time because I know it will go down and dry very quickly. Unlike the grainy Tamiya stuff, the grainy Tamiya acrylic paint was the word I was looking for. 1, 2, 3, there we go, 3 drops of thinners in there. I'm going to get my brush, in fact I'm going to give this a good stir. Make sure there's no sludge in the bottom. You need to be careful with these Tamiya lacquer paints, they're quite deceiving. Some of them, like the plain colours, like your reds and blues and whites and all that, they don't seem to settle. You don't seem to get that sludge in the bottom. But some of them metallics, my God, it's like concrete in the bottom of the jar. So don't be fooled because you use your reds and your yellows and greens and stuff. That all the lacquer paints will be the same. Now, Tamiya lacquer paint is quite thin. You can almost spray it straight from the bottle. In fact, those exhausts I showed you, they were done straight from the jar, no thinners at all. Smells. So yeah, make sure you know your consistencies. And a lot of people asking me lately about paint thicknesses and all that. And it's, you know, it's one of those. It's how you like to work. Some people like their paint a bit thicker, some like it thinner. Okay, so that's coming out of there lovely. So we can come along now and just colour that corner in. There we go. That's the V done. I ended up changing over to this Mr. Colour 113. Remember, this is RLM04, and that's what I used before. And also, that Tamiya lacquer paint was just not covering at all. It just seemed to be bleeding in. It just absolutely awful. And I really noticed when I came to do these little bob weight things that are going to go on the bottom of the ailerons, they it just wasn't, just where the sprue nibs were, it just was not covering. So I got this in, sort of mixed it 50-50 with some Stuka lovely thinners, bang, job done. So very, very nice indeed. So it's going to have this dark green area here, and then it's just going to have a blow over with the semi-gloss clear again just to seal it in. And then we'll start looking at some weathering, but I think that'll probably be in the next video because I think this one is dragging on a bit. So let's see how we are for time. Right, so we're all sealed up again, Tamiya LP24. The thing to notice here, guys, with this LP24 that I've never seen with any other clear coat before, I've sprayed this area here and I've sprayed this area here, and it's just blended in. Now normally you would get like a dry area or whatever. The other thing I'm seeing, because it's got a sheen to it now, the marks have come back. So there we go. I'm getting, you know, if this was a 1/72 scale Airfix kit or something, this would have been thrown against the wall a long time ago. And nothing to do with the model's fault, all to do with me, my fault entirely. Yeah, so if this was a project that I was deeply passionate about and wanted perfect, what I would do now is I would, if you've seen my video about washing the parts for the Model Factory Heroes Lancia Monte Carlo, then you'll see my little area where I do stripping. And if I need to strip some paint, I have containers of different sizes and I can put alcohol in there and what I would do with this, I would suspend this model sideways in a bath sort of up to a line and then just blend it out, and then I would repaint the whole thing. But because I don't have replacement decals, I can't do that. But what I would have done is just stripped it right back to plastic and started again and blended it in here. Maybe one day if I get something wrong, that's something I can show you, but it's a far better way of curing the problem. For instance, this is my old Heinkel 111 wing, and that's been in the alcohol, and you can see it's just taken everything off except for some certain paints. I'm not sure what this was. Maybe it was MRP. MRP is a particularly resilient paint to anything. So yeah, so that's back to plastic now. So you can see how that works. So anyway, we're going to have to push on now. I think the next thing I'm going to do now is give this a pin wash, and just to sort of highlight everything, and we'll see how it looks. And for that I will use the Modeler's World pin wash. I'll either use the Industrial Dirt, which is like a grey colour, Industrial Dirt, or black. I do actually like these. I love these products. I did have somebody comment a while ago that they thought they were awful and they were no better than watercolours or something. I don't know, but I find them absolutely brilliant because they have the characteristics of an oil wash without all the smell, the enamel thinner smell. You know, the one you get on a cloth and it stinks the whole house out with like 1 milligram of bloody liquid. So I think that's what I'm going to do, give it a wash. I'm not really sure which colour to use. I might use this on top and this underneath, and that'll just give us all our highlighted panel lines and everything, and give it a bit of artistic license really. So all I do to do that is I take my, right, so I've got my pin washing brush here, which is just basically a brush I use only for enamels. I never use it for acrylics. Never mix your brushes up with enamels and acrylics, guys. So just going to get some thinners. This is odorless thinners, and I'm just going to brush this into the areas where I'm going to put the wash. Okay, and this will help it to flow. And then I'm going to take some of the, I think I'll use the dark dirt here because we've got the light blue, and then I can just brush this in everywhere, and what it will do, it will pick up in all the little areas, all the panel lines. If you're new to the hobby and your scribing leaves something to be desired, then you might want to give this a miss, because it'll highlight all the issues you've got with your scribing. So think about that before you start. My scribing isn't always the best, I must be honest. And what it will do, it will chase along and it will build up in those areas. And if you want it to go a bit better, just put some thinners on and let it just help it just chase it around. You can see there what it's doing. It's going round and it's getting into all the nooks and crannies and picking up all the details. Let's get some on there because we've got a couple of studs there that are missing. Get some into there, and this is just a, I think it's really artistic license. And I get some of the black, brush some of the black into here, into those lines there. It's one of those enjoyable things. If you don't feel like doing the detailed modelling, you just want to do something, then this is quite a good thing to do, because it can just, you just slap it on, you know, and then you wipe it off later on. So stick that up there, let that dry. Do the same on this one. So I didn't put the thinners on, so I'll show you what the difference is. If you don't use the thinners, you can see it doesn't spread anything like as fast. So we'll just put some odorless thinners on here. Let it run around, and then we can take our wash, just brush it around all the places we want it to go. Just like so. And it can look quite garish to start with, but don't worry, what will happen is it will chase off. It will chase out of the, get some in the end there. I'm using the black, aren't I, Dafty? Dafty, where did I get that from? Bloody Dafty. Okay, so we've got that in there like that, so that can go around, sit in those panel lines. We can just leave that to sort itself out. Looks awful, doesn't it? But don't worry. If you're new to the hobby, if you're not new to the hobby, you know exactly what's coming. Okay, so on the nose here, we've got some panel lines in the spinner, so I can put some in there. Notice I didn't use odourless thinners because I don't want it going everywhere. I don't need a mess on the front of here. We've also got a panel line round here you can deal with, and then on the actual engine itself, just brush around. You could get some of the wash and thin it down just like so, and then you can just drop it on and it will chase around. And this is what's called a pin wash, guys. An overall wash, you would just brush it all over and then wipe it all off. Something like you might use a flory clay wash. Brushing it into the rivets. I might regret that because some of my riveting up here is not very good at all. And this is why we do our decaling before any weathering, so that any panel lines where there's any decals, decals, whatever you want to call them, the panel lines are in the decals, so you'll get the panel line going through rather than having it stuck on top. What a lovely rivet detail. This thing is plastered in rivet detail that you didn't even know was there. There we go, that's that done. Get some runners rivets there. And as you can see, it's just a mess. It's just a total mess, but don't worry. And then underneath here, I'm going to use some of the grey. We can just pick up some of that detail down there. And there we go. So I'll carry on now, get the rest of the aircraft done, and then I'll come back and show you what I'm going to do with it next. Right, so as you can see here, it's kind of ended up as a complete wash rather than just a pin wash, because there is so much detail, there's so many rivets everywhere, and that rather than try and just pin wash it and pick up panel lines, I thought I'd just give it an overall wash, let it dry, and then we'll streak it all off. As I say, there is so much detail here, it's incredible. And it's going to look stunning once we start to get it off. The little rivets in between the panel lines, it's not going to stay in all of those, but it's going to stay in some of them. It's going to give us a lovely effect. And also, when I wipe over these raised rivets here, we should get some very nice streaking effects. If I use this cheap cotton bud, I've just done it again. I picked up a cotton bud that was already there that could have had anything on it. You can see we can wipe over areas that are smooth like this. Okay, we can remove the wash. Now if you want to remove more, what you can do is just damp the cotton bud with some odourless thinners and just go over. Where's that come from? That must have been on, where the hell did that come from? God knows what that was. Right, so we just go over there. You can see it's just dampened, it's not wet, it's just damp with odourless thinners, and you can get that kind of washed effect, if you like. You can see it there. Okay, we'll do the same on this one here, just go over it. And you really don't want to be doing this too soon, because all you'll do is pull all of the wash out of the panel lines. Remember, the wash on the surface will dry faster than the wash in the panel lines, because the wash in the panel lines is obviously deeper. So I'm trying to do that too early, it's going to pull it all out. So basically what you want to do is just leave it until it's all sort of dry like this here, and then just wipe it off. You can use a cotton bud, you can use a cloth. I find an old t-shirt is that sort of material is the best. Paper towels tend to just fall apart. There we go, and then you can, I'll come up with this paper towel here just to show you the kind of effect you can get, and you need to be quite aggressive with it. I mean, if you could use a flory wash, but the trouble is with that, it tends to be quite grainy in places. I find I much prefer to use an oil wash. Because you can, you see, wipe most of it away, and then you end up with all the rivet detail and everything exposed. And then if you really want to clean it up, like you don't want it to look too grungy, you can just, let's get some clean odorless thinners. And then what you can do is just, where's the paper towel, here it is. Just take your cotton bud, just roll it on the paper towel, and then you can just go over like this. As you can see, what it's doing, it's removing a lot of it, but it's leaving it in the rivets and the panel lines and everything. And because it's a cotton bud, it won't get right into the corners, so it lets the dirt stay, if you like, in the corners. And if you keep it in the direction of flow of the aircraft, it kind of gives you streaking effects as well. Okay, so there you go. You can see now simply how to make that wingtip, all that detail really pop out. And because it's shiny, you're not getting the effect. Let me let it dry off, and then I'll show you how it looks. I won't touch it now. I'll just do a little bit onto this blue. Go. I won't touch it now. I'll just leave it, let it dry, and then I'll show you how it looks when it's dry, when it's dried matte. And there we go. As you can see, all dry, dulled down. Got a cotton bud here. If you want to keep working it some more, you can. And you know, that is the beauty of using oils. You just keep on working at it, even like 3 or 4 days after you've done it. You can come back and think, oh, I don't like the look of that. And you can just keep on working at it. And you know, it gives you that lovely effect. You're never going to wash all the oil out of all the panel lines, I don't think, but you can certainly pretty much get it all off the surface. Like I say, if you keep going in the direction of flow, you can kind of get some sort of streaking in there as well. You can see on there, you can also use your finger just to kind of level things out and get it all evened up. And there you go. You can see we've got that lovely, dirty, worn, detailed effect. Okay, now you need to be a little bit careful with this with smaller scale stuff. Some of the smaller Airfix kits, they have trench-like panel lines. You know, somebody once referred to them as like the surface of the Star Destroyer. Not a Star Destroyer. What's the big planet? The big planet thing where they went down with the X fighters and the TIE fighters and X-wings and TIE fighters. Sorry. So there we go. So that's the effect we're going through. I've got to go over the whole thing now and do this. It takes a very long time, and it's worth doing. The other thing is, you can see here, remember I talked about seam lines and getting good lines. I mean, here, one of these two panel lines here is the seam line for the wingtip. So you can see that's the thing. Get it all nice and level. If you remember, I glued them on separately to the top and the bottom, and you get them nice and level and everything. And then when you come to do your washes, it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. Same with your scribing. If your scribing is not good, like you can see back here, this is where the fuselage joins the wing section, and you can see there, it's just a lovely scribe line. It's just, that's because of the kit. That's nothing to do with me. But if you've got a model where you're having a bit of a struggle, what I would always suggest, as you've probably seen me do before, let that be your joint line, fill it with some super glue, whatever, just fill it, get it all solid, and then come over a couple of millimeters and rescribe a couple of millimeters over from the joint. So I've got to be careful of here. I've obviously got this, because it's shiny, you'll see it, but there is a seam line. You can see it here down the middle of the fuselage. I'm not going to take time to cure it, because I'll just ruin all the rivets. So it's you pay your money, you take your choice. I've decided to put up with that little tiny seam line and keep the rivets. So That's what I'm doing. But you can see I've got over here with this cotton bud, and you can see the difference. This is a wooden cotton bud from Simon, thank you, compared to those crappy paper ones, and it just lasts so much longer, and it keeps its rigidity, so you can keep a constant force on it and keep removing at the same rate. You can see here, rub over with my finger. What I don't want to do is go too mad, because I want to keep some streaking in between those raised rivets. And there you go. I don't think you can see it very well because it's shiny, but that kind of streaky effect along there now. So as I say, I've got to go and get the rest done, and I think we'll call that a day for this part, actually, because we've been quite a long time. I'll do the same on the top, so when you see me next, we'll have it all weathered. We'll have it all washed, and then we'll look at doing some weathering. So I'll see you all soon for part 14. Thanks very much for watching. As I say, I'll get some pictures up at the end, and we'll go from there.